I signed the contract in my truck at a rest stop outside Albuquerque. Took maybe 5 minutes. Pattern Energy needed a night maintenance electrician for their Ocotillo wind project, somewhere outside El Centro, California. 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, start immediately. Pay was decent, housing stipend included. I didn't read the fine print. Just filled in the boxes on my phone, used my finger for the signature line, hit submit, done. Then I put the truck back in gear and kept driving west before I could think about it too hard. That's how I do it now. Find the work, take the work, go where the work is. Doesn't matter if it's wind farms or solar arrays or grid maintenance in the middle of nowhere. As long as it's far from Memphis and doesn't involve distribution centers or warehouses or anywhere they use heavy machinery to move pallets around. The desert highways were empty that time of night. Just me and the occasional semi in those long stretches where you can see your headlights hit nothing but asphalt and painted lines for miles. I had the windows cracked. It was still warm even past midnight, that dry kind of warm that doesn't sit on your skin the same way humidity does. I stopped thinking about the contract, stopped thinking about much of anything. That was the point, except I couldn't really stop thinking. That's the thing nobody tells you about driving long distances alone. Your brain fills the quiet whether you want it to or not. I kept coming back to the hospital. Not the one in El Centro, the one in Memphis, Regional 1, the trauma unit on the 4th floor where they'd taken Albert after the accident. 7 months ago, January 5th. I'd been working a site job up in Jackson when I got the call. Some manager from the Kroger distribution center, voice careful and apologetic, saying there'd been an incident and Albert had been transported, and I should probably come down as soon as I could. She wouldn't say much else. Company policy, probably, liability. I made it to Memphis in 2 hours. They had him stable by then, fractured pelvis, broken ribs, internal bleeding they'd managed to stop. A forklift had clipped him while he was securing a pallet on the ground level, and the whole load had shifted. 1,200 pounds of canned goods came down on him before anyone could shout a warning. The manager met me in the waiting room. She had a tablet and a badge on a lanyard, and that look people get when they've been coached on what to say. She walked me through the timeline, told me Albert had been following procedure, told me the operator had been certified, told me sometimes these things just happen, and the company took safety very seriously, and they'd be conducting a full review. Nobody's fault. She said that 3 times. I didn't argue. I just asked where he was. They let me see him maybe 20 minutes later. He was awake, sort of. Morphine kept him floaty. He recognized me, though, tried to smile. Said something about how he'd really screwed up his weekend plans. That was Albert, always downplaying it. I sat with him for 4 hours before they moved him to a regular room. Didn't say much. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed the whole time, that high electric hum that sits right behind your teeth. Monitors beeped. An alarm went off twice in another bay, some kind of code they called over the intercom. I couldn't do it. Couldn't sit there. Couldn't listen to the machines. Couldn't watch him sleep with all those tubes and wires running into his arms. I went outside. Smoked half a pack in the parking lot even though I'd quit 2 years earlier. When I came back in, my hands were still shaking. That's when I knew I couldn't do hospitals anymore. Couldn't do accident reports or safety meetings or managers with tablets telling me how nobody was at fault. Albert recovered. Took 3 months, but he got back on his feet. Even went back to work at a different Kroger site. He called me once a week to check in, always sounding fine, always saying the physical therapy was going great. I believed him because I needed to. But I couldn't stay in Tennessee after that. Couldn't take jobs anywhere near warehouses or loading docks or anywhere they moved heavy things on wheels. I started chasing wind farms and solar fields, places where the work was clean and mechanical and didn't involve people getting crushed under pallets. So when the Ocotillo contract came through, I took it. Didn't think twice. El Centro sits in the Imperial Valley, right up against the Mexican border. It's flat and hot, and the kind of place that feels temporary even when you're standing still. I rolled in around 4 in the afternoon, 2 days after I'd signed the contract. The site office was 10 miles north of town, a double-wide trailer planted in the dirt with a gravel lot and a chain-link fence around it. Wind turbines spread out in every direction. Had to be 100 of them, maybe more. Tall white towers with 3 blades each, some of them turning slow, some of them still. They didn't make much noise from the ground, just a low whoosh when the wind picked up. I parked next to a Ford pickup with a Pattern Energy decal on the door and grabbed my folder of paperwork. Everything smelled like dust and creosote. Inside, the trailer had that industrial office setup. Laminate desks, filing cabinets, a coffee maker that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in a year. A wall-mounted AC unit rattled in the corner. There was a woman behind the desk, maybe 40, hair pulled back tight. She had sharp eyes and a badge clipped high on her shirt. Grace Alexander, site supervisor. She looked up when I walked in. "Lincoln Gilbert?" "That's me. You're early." She said it flat, not impressed or annoyed, just a fact. "Figured I'd get here before my shift." "Your shift starts at 2200. It's 1600. "I know." She studied me for a second, then pulled a file from the stack on her desk. "Sit." I sat. Grace flipped through the file, checking boxes on a printed form, initialing things. She had my contract, my certifications, a background check I didn't remember authorizing but probably had. She didn't make small talk, just worked through the stack, efficient and businesslike. After maybe 5 minutes, she slid a laminated card across the desk. "Read this." It was the size of an index card, printed on both sides. The front had a list of 8 rules in bold text. The back had diagrams of a turbine and some kind of badge reader. I read through it once. "Again," Grace said. So I read it again, slower this time. Ocotillo Site Rules. Mandatory Compliance 1. Clip your badge to your chest at all times, visible, no pockets, no lanyards. 2. If your badge turns red, stop work immediately and descend. 3. Do not enter a turbine alone, ever. 4. If you feel wrong inside a turbine, nausea, dizziness, pressure, descend immediately. 5. Do not remove another worker's badge. Do not touch another worker's badge. 6. Report all badge malfunctions to your supervisor before next shift. 7. If you see someone without a badge inside a turbine, descend immediately and report. 8. No photographs inside turbines. No exceptions. I looked up. This is a lot of rules for a wind farm. Grace didn't blink. "You have a problem with rules?" "No, just seems specific." "It is specific." She tapped the card. "These are company policy. They're also not company policy." "What does that mean?" "It means Pattern Energy has their own safety protocols, and those matter. But these," she tapped the card again, "these matter more. You follow these, you'll be fine. You don't. You won't last a week." I set the card down. "Okay. I'm serious, Gilbert. You don't argue about the badge. You don't ask why. If it turns red, you get out. If something feels wrong, you get out. That's it." "Got it." She leaned back, arms crossed. "Especially up a turbine. You're going to be doing night maintenance, which means you'll be inside them when it's dark and quiet and your brain starts playing tricks. You feel pressure, you feel sick, you feel anything off. You descend. Immediately. Understood?" "Understood." Grace held my eyes for another beat, then nodded. "Good. Your badge is being printed now. You'll get it before shift starts. Don't lose it. Don't forget it. Don't put it anywhere except clipped to your chest. Anything else?" "Yeah." She pulled a map from the file and unfolded it on the desk. "You're assigned to the North Sector. Turbines 1 through 33. You'll have a partner for the first week. After that, you're on your own unless we're running a 2-man job." I looked at the map. 33 turbines spread across maybe 5 square miles of desert. "Questions?" Grace asked. I had about a dozen, but I didn't ask any of them. No, I said. Good. Be back here at 21:45. Don't be late. I stood up, took the laminated card, and walked out. The wind had picked up outside. The turbines were all turning now, slow and steady, blades cutting the air in long, clean arcs. I sat in my truck for a while, reading the card a third time, trying to figure out what the hell I just signed up for. I tried to treat the laminated card the way I'd treated every other safety checklist I'd seen over the last 10 years. Read it twice, nod, clip the badge where they tell you, don't be an idiot, standard stuff. But Grace didn't let it sit that way. She kept her eyes on me while I read, didn't touch her computer, didn't shuffle papers, just watched. When I finished the second read and set the card down, she slid it back toward me. One more time, she said. I picked it up again. The laminate was warm from sitting in the sun coming through the trailer window. I read slower. Rule 1 still said clip the badge to my chest, visible, no pockets or lanyards. Rule 2 still said stop work and descend if it turned red. I kept going all the way through Rule 8, no photographs inside turbines, no exceptions. Grace leaned forward. You get why these matter? Safety, I said. Not just safety. She tapped the desk once with her index finger. These keep you working here. You break one, you're gone. I don't write you up. I don't give warnings. You're off-site that day. I nodded. I'm serious, Gilbert. I've had good techs. Certified, experienced, careful. They think one rule doesn't apply one time. They're wrong. She pulled the card back and set it in a drawer. You follow all 8, you'll be fine. You don't, you won't last. The air conditioner rattled louder for a second, then settled. Understood, I said. She opened a different drawer and pulled out a blue folder. Your partner for the first week is Willie Matthews. He's been here 14 months. He'll walk you through the sector, show you the standard checks, make sure you know where everything is. She wrote something on the folder. After that, you're solo unless it's a 2-man job. Sounds good. Grace closed the folder and looked at me again. Her expression didn't change. Willie's solid. Listen to what he says. Some of it'll sound like superstition. It's not. I wasn't sure what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. She stood up. 21:45. Don't be late. I left. I came back at 21:40. Didn't want to cut it close on the first night. The lot had 2 more trucks now, both with pattern energy decals. The wind was stronger than it had been that afternoon. I could hear the turbines clearly, that low, whooshing sound cycling over and over. Grace met me at the door and handed me a badge on a metal clip. It was the size of a credit card, white plastic with a black stripe on the back and my name printed on the front. Lincoln Gilbert. Beneath that, it said night maintenance and had a barcode. There was a small LED embedded in the top right corner. It was green. Clip it now, Grace said. I clipped it to the chest pocket of my jacket. The little light stayed green. Good. Don't take it off until your shift ends and you're back here. She stepped aside. Willie's inside. I walked into the trailer. A guy was standing by the coffee maker pouring from a mostly empty pot. He was tall, maybe 6'1", wiry build, light brown hair a little longer on top. He had his badge clipped to a hoodie under his PPE vest. The LED on his was green too. Lincoln, he said. Yeah? Willie. He held up the coffee pot. Want some? It's bad, but it works. I'm good. He shrugged and poured the rest into a travel mug. Cool. Grace said you've done wind work before? 3 farms, Nevada, Wyoming, and 1 in Iowa. Nice. This one's pretty standard. Couple weird rules, but you'll get used to it. He screwed the lid onto his mug and grabbed a clipboard off the desk. We're doing a walkthrough tonight. No climbs. Just showing you the sector, the substation, where the tools live, all that. Sounds good. Willie grinned. You already sound like you're over it. That's perfect. You'll fit in fine. Grace came back in and told us to head out. Willie grabbed a set of keys off a pegboard and led me outside to one of the Pattern Energy trucks. We got in. He started the engine and pulled out onto the dirt road that ran between the turbines. The wind was steady now. All the blades were turning. Willie drove with one hand, sipping his coffee with the other. "So Grace gave you the card, right? The 8 rules?" "Yeah." "She make you read it 3 times?" "Yeah." He laughed. "She does that with everyone. It's not a power thing. Well, maybe a little. But mostly she just wants to make sure you actually looked at it." He glanced over. "You remember them?" "Most of them. Badge on your chest. Don't go in alone. Get out if it turns red. Don't touch someone else's badge." He ticked them off casually. "And the one about the basement door. That one's easy because you'll never use it anyway." "What's the basement door?" "You'll see it tonight. It's at the substation. Just a door. You're not supposed to open it. If someone asks you to, you call Grace instead." He shrugged. "Never happened to me. Don't know anyone it's happened to. It's just on the list." I looked out the window. We passed 3 turbines, their bases lit by small floodlights. The nacelles were dark up top. Willie checked his mirror, then looked at my chest. "Badge is good. Green light, clipped right. You're solid." "You check that a lot?" "Yeah." He didn't sound defensive. "It's automatic now. I check mine. I check yours. I check anyone I'm working with. It's just easier that way." Grace said the same thing. "If it turns red, stop and descend." "Immediately," Willie said. "Don't finish what you're doing. Don't pack up nice. You see red, you get out." He took another sip of coffee. "I've seen it happen twice. Both times the guy's light flipped red about halfway up the ladder. They came right back down. Grace swapped their badges and they went back up 20 minutes later. No big deal." "What makes it turn red?" "Don't know. Malfunction, maybe. Interference. Grace doesn't really explain it." He slowed down as we approached a larger building, low and wide with concrete walls and a flat roof. Floodlights lit up a gravel lot in front. "This is the substation. We'll park here." He pulled up next to the building and killed the engine. We got out. The wind hit harder here without the truck around us. I zipped my jacket up higher. Willie led me to a side door. He scanned his badge on a reader mounted next to it. The light on the reader turned green and the door clicked open. "You'll do the same. Badge opens all the doors you're supposed to go through." Inside was a concrete hallway. Bright white LED panels overhead. Pale yellow walls. It smelled like dust and ozone. We walked past a storage room with the door propped open. I could see shelves with spare breakers, cable spools, and a stack of hard hats. Willie stopped at a break room on the left. There was a folding table, 4 plastic chairs, and another coffee maker on a small counter. "This is where people hang out if they need to kill time between calls. Coffee's better than the office, but not by much." "Noted." We kept walking. The hallway curved slightly to the right. Willie slowed down as we passed another door on the left. This one was different. Plain steel. No window. No label. Just a card reader mounted beside it. Willie stopped about 3 feet away from it and pointed. "That's the basement door." I looked at it. It was just a door. Gray steel, standard commercial frame, the kind you'd see in any industrial building. The card reader next to it had no light on. "What's down there?" I asked. "No idea." Willie shifted his weight, putting himself more to the right, further from the door. "Never been in. Don't know anyone who has. Grace said it's utility access, something for Pattern's infrastructure team, not for us. So it's off limits." "Yeah. Rule's pretty clear. If anyone asks you to open it, don't. Call Grace." He looked at me. "And I mean anyone. Another tech, a contractor, whoever. You call her first." I stared at the door for another second. "Anyone ever ask?" "Not that I've heard." Willie started walking again, faster now, like he wanted to be past it. "It's just one of those things. Easier to know where it is and forget about it." I followed him, I glanced back once. The door looked the same. Just steel. Just a reader. But Willie had stepped away from it. Not dramatically, not like he was scared. Just a small shift, casual, the kind of thing you do without thinking when you want a little more space between you and something you don't like. And that made it different. I'd worked sites with locked server rooms, chemical storage, electrical vaults. You knew what was behind the door. You knew why it was off limits. This one didn't have a label, no hazard marking, no sign. Just a rule that said don't open it and a training partner who didn't want to stand in front of it. We kept walking. Willie showed me the main breaker hall, the tool lockup, and the log binder where we'd note any work we did. He stayed relaxed the whole time, making small jokes, checking my badge every few minutes without comment. But I kept thinking about the door and the way Willie had moved. It wasn't fear. It was something quieter, something learned. The first 2 nights went smoothly. I followed Willie between turbines, climbed 3 towers to check nacelle connections, and logged every reset in the paper binder Grace kept in the truck. Willie talked through each step out loud, not lecturing exactly, just thinking with his voice. He'd point at a breaker panel and say, okay, so this row's your aux systems, this one's your pitch control backup. You see how they labeled it weird. And I'd nod and write it down. Standard stuff. Routine inspections, oil level checks, minor faults that cleared themselves when you cycled the contactor. The kind of work I could do half asleep. I appreciated that. The desert made everything feel simpler. No loading docks. No forklifts backing up with that beeping sound. No managers with tablets. Just wind and metal and a whole lot of empty space between each problem. Willie didn't ask about where I'd worked before or why I'd left. I didn't ask why he checked his badge every 20 minutes. We just did the work. First night we cleared 6 turbines in the north sector, all minor stuff. Loose sensor cable on D02. Firmware glitch on D11 that needed a manual restart. Willie showed me where they kept the spare junction boxes in the substation storage room and which breakers tripped most often and why. He drove slow between sites, checking his mirrors more than seemed necessary, but I didn't mind. I'd worked with worse partners. Second night was quieter. We only had 2 call-outs, both quick fixes. Willie let me take the lead on the second one, a yaw motor acting up on D19. I climbed the ladder with him behind me, both our badges clipped in green, and ran through the diagnostics while he watched. When I finished, he said, "Yeah, that's it. Good." And we descended. On the drive back, he bought us gas station coffee at the AM/PM off Route 111, and we sat in the truck for 20 minutes not talking, just drinking bad coffee and watching the turbines turn under the floodlights. It felt fine. Normal even. I figured I could do this job for a while. Third night started the same way. I showed up at 2140, clipped my badge, met Willie by the truck. Wind stayed light and steady. The kind that keeps the blades moving but doesn't stress anything. All the turbines in our sector were online when we checked the SCADA screen at 2200. Grace was in the office but didn't say much, just nodded when Willie confirmed we were heading out. We did our first sweep. D03 needed a filter swap, took 15 minutes. D22 had a temperature alarm that cleared when I checked the actual sensor, probably dust. Willie logged it. We stopped at the substation to refill the truck's coolant reservoir and grabbed another round of coffee from the break room. Still tasted like metal and old grounds, but I drank it anyway. It was 1:12 in the morning when the fault came through. I was sitting in the passenger seat finishing the logbook entry for D22 when the radio on the dash crackled and beeped twice. Willie picked it up and I heard Grace's voice, clipped and clear. D07 just dropped, check the board. Willie pulled up the SCADA screen on the truck's mounted tablet. I leaned over to look. Most of the sector showed green icons, blades turning, everything normal. But D07 sat there with a red outline and a fault label I didn't recognize. Code E47. I'd seen E-codes for electrical faults before, but not that one. "You know what that is?" I asked. Willie shook his head. No, not common. He zoomed in on the turbine's status readout. No temperature spike, no grid fault, no obvious mechanical failure, just offline with a code neither of us had seen. Grace want us to roll out? Willie said into the radio. Yeah, handle it. Her voice sounded normal, maybe a little flatter than usual. Hard to say. Willie clipped the radio back and put the truck in gear. We drove out through the sector, headlights cutting through the sand, shifting in gusts. The wind had picked up a little, not much, just enough to kick dust across the road in thin streams. I watched the turbines pass, blades turning slow and steady. No sign anything was wrong. D-07 sat about 2 miles northeast of the substation, halfway between D-06 and D-08 in a flat stretch with nothing around it but hardpan and creosote bushes. Willie didn't talk on the drive. He checked his badge twice, glanced at mine once. I looked down. Still green. When we got close, I could see the turbine tower lit up by our headlights. White paint streaked with dust. The nacelle up top motionless while the turbines on either side kept turning. Willie parked 20 feet from the base and killed the engine. We both sat there for a second, looking up. Nothing obviously wrong with it. Tower looked fine. No scorch marks, no damage I could see from the truck. Blades weren't locked at a bad angle or anything. But the access panel stood unlatched. I noticed it when I got out of the truck. The small steel door at the base of the tower, the one you badge in through to reach the ladder well. It wasn't closed all the way. Not wide open, just unlatched. Maybe an inch of gap, enough to see it wasn't sitting flush. Willie saw it too. He stopped halfway to the tower and stared at it. That was locked this morning, he said. His voice had this edge to it I hadn't heard before. Not scared exactly. More like he'd personally failed something he normally had under control. I walked up to the panel and looked closer. No pry marks, no damage to the reader. The badge scanner next to the door still had its little green standby light on, same as every other turbine. I pulled the door open the rest of the way and shined my flashlight into the ladder well. That's when I saw the boot marks, fresh ones, treads pressed into the thin layer of dust on the concrete floor just inside the threshold, leading toward the ladder. Maybe 2 or 3 steps worth. Then nothing. Like someone had stepped inside and vanished. I crouched down and looked closer. Definitely recent. The edges of the prints were sharp, not smoothed out by settling dust. And the tread pattern didn't match my boots or Willie's. Different sole, deeper lugs. Willie, I said. He came over and looked where I was pointing. His jaw tightened. That's not ours, he said. No. And we're the only night crew in this sector. Yeah. He stepped back from the door. Not far, maybe a foot. Just enough to put a little more space between himself and the ladder well. I'd seen him do that same movement at the substation, by the basement door. Small, casual, unconscious. I stood up and checked the SCADA tablet Willie had brought from the truck. Still showed D07 offline, fault code E47, no new information. I looked up at the nacelle, dark and still against the sky. We going up? I asked. Willie didn't answer right away. He was staring at the boot marks, then at his own badge, then back at the marks. Before he could say anything, his radio crackled. Not the normal squelch and beep. This was different, sharper, louder. It cut through the wind with this clarity that didn't make sense for how far we were from the substation. Willie pulled the radio off his belt and the static cleared instantly. Grace's voice came through, perfectly clear. No distortion, no background noise, like she was standing right next to us. Handle it fast, she said, and bring back the down tower camera kit when you're done. Willie keyed the mic. Copy. We're at the base now. Access panel was unlatched. Silence for 3 seconds, then, I know. Handle it. Camera kit's in the nacelle storage locker, yellow case. Don't forget it. The radio clicked off. Willie stared at it for a second, then clipped it back to his belt. His hand was steady, but his face had gone tight in a way I recognized. The look people get when they realize the situation has rules they don't fully understand. I felt it too, that tightening. Like the 8 rules on the laminated card weren't just guidelines anymore. They were the only thing keeping something bigger from happening. Grace knew the panel was unlatched. She knew before we told her, and she wanted that camera kit back. I looked at Willie. He looked at me. "Badge is green?" he said. I checked mine. "Green." He checked his. "Yeah." "Okay." The wind picked up a little, rattling the loose panel door against its frame. "Let's handle it," Willie said. Willie froze. Not in the way people freeze when they're thinking. In the way they freeze when they've remembered something that matters, and they're deciding whether to say it out loud. His hand went to his own badge first, checked the light, green. Then his eyes went to mine. "Badge good?" he said. I glanced down, still clipped to my chest, still green. "Yeah," I said. He didn't look satisfied. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see his breath fogging a little in the cold air, and stared at my badge placement. Not the light. The clip, the angle, the position on my jacket. "It's clipped right," I said. "I know." But he kept looking. I figured he was running through the rules in his head. Rule 1, badge visible, chest height, clipped secure. I'd done that. Rule 2, get out if it turns red. It wasn't red. Rule 3, don't go in alone. That one we were about to break. Except we weren't. Because Willie was still standing here, and I was still standing here. And the turbine was right there with its access door half open and the panel fault blinking red inside the control box mounted to the exterior frame. Willie exhaled slow. "Okay," he said. "We go up together." I nodded. He didn't move yet. "You good with that?" he said. "Yeah." "Because if you're not..." "I'm good." I reached up and tapped my badge twice with my knuckle. Just a light tap. Green light didn't flicker. I wanted him to see I got it, that I understood the badge mattered, that I was paying attention. I didn't actually understand why it mattered more than fixing the fault, but I understood that it did. Willie's shoulders dropped half an inch. He nodded once, sharp. "All right," he said. "Let's handle it." He pulled the access door open the rest of the way and stepped inside. I followed. The ladder well smelled wrong. Not bad, just wrong. Hot metal, which made sense because turbines ran warm. Grease, which also made sense because gearboxes leaked and lubricant got everywhere. But under that was something else. Stale air, maybe. Or air that had been breathed too many times in a closed space. I'd been in dozens of turbine towers. They all smelled about the same. This one smelled the same, but heavier, thicker. Willie clipped his headlamp on and started climbing. I did the same and followed 2 rungs below him. The ladder was standard industrial. Steel rungs, safety cage around it starting at the 10-foot mark. Yellow paint worn down to bare metal in the center of each rung where boots hit. My gloves gripped fine. The rungs were solid. I pulled my phone out of my pocket with my right hand, holding the ladder with my left, and checked the screen. 2 bars, then 1, then no service. I kept climbing. 3 rungs later, 2 bars came back. I shoved the phone back in my pocket and used both hands. Another few rungs and I felt it drop again. Not the phone. The signal. I didn't need to check. I could feel it go. That little absence of connection. The same way you can feel when Bluetooth cuts out even if you're not actively using it. It came back. Then it dropped again. I didn't like that. Signal dropped in turbines sometimes. Thick walls, metal everywhere, height doing weird things to line of sight. But it didn't usually bounce. It either worked or it didn't. This felt different. This felt pressed. That was a stupid way to think about it, but that's what it felt like. Something pressing against the air inside the tower, squeezing the signal out and then letting it back in. I kept climbing. Willie's boots rang steady on the rungs above me. He didn't say anything. I didn't either. Just the rhythm of hands and feet, metal on metal, breathing. We hit the first rest platform at 40 feet. Willie stepped off the ladder onto the grated floor, and I followed. The platform was maybe 4 feet square, just enough room for 2 people to stand and catch their breath before continuing up. There was a small LED work light bolted to the wall, casting everything in flat white. Willie didn't stop to rest. He turned and looked up at the ladder above us, shining his headlamp on the rungs. "Hold on," he said. I stopped. He pointed. I followed his hand and saw it. A scuff mark on one of the rungs about 6 feet above the platform. The rung was worn smooth in the center where boots normally hit, same as all the others, but this mark was different, longer, polished, diagonal across the rung, starting at the left edge and dragging toward the center. It looked fresh. The metal was brighter there, cleaner. No dust or grit settled into it yet. "Boot slid," Willie said. I nodded. "Yeah, that's what it looked like." "When?" I said. "Don't know." He kept his light on it for another few seconds, then swept the beam higher, checking the rungs above. Nothing else obvious. He brought the light back down. "Gate lock was intact," he said, "when we checked it outside before we came in." "Yeah. So nobody's been inside since last shift, right?" Willie looked at me. "Except somebody was," he said. I didn't have an answer for that. He chewed the inside of his cheek for a second, then shook his head. "Maybe day crew," he said. "Maybe they logged it wrong, or didn't log it. Maybe." But he didn't sound convinced. And I wasn't either. Day crew would have locked the gate, and if they hadn't locked it, Grace would have caught that during shift turnover. She checked everything. Willie put his boot on the next rung. "Keep going," he said. I did. We climbed another 60 feet in silence. I counted rungs. It's a habit. 42 rungs from the first platform to the second. Standard spacing, 12 inches apart, no variation. My hands found the rhythm and I stopped thinking about it. That's when my headlamp caught the handprint. I stopped. Willie kept climbing for 2 more rungs, then noticed I wasn't behind him and stopped too. "What?" he said. I aimed my headlamp higher, at the rungs above me. There, dark streaks on the metal, wet-looking. 4 lines parallel, the width of fingers, and next to it, a smudge the size of a palm. Handprints, 2 of them. One on the left upright, one on the rung 3 feet higher. "Willie," I said. He climbed back down until he was level with me and shined his own light where I was looking. He didn't say anything for 5 seconds. "That's fresh," I said. It was. The streaks hadn't dried yet. They caught the light wrong, still tacky, still wet. Willie leaned closer, not touching the ladder, just looking. "Grease," he said. Maybe. Grease was everywhere in a turbine. Gearbox above us could have leaked, could have dripped down, could have gotten on someone's gloves. But grease didn't leave handprints that clean, and it didn't explain why someone had been climbing after we'd entered. Because that's what I was thinking, the scuff on the rung below, the wet prints above. Someone had been in here, recently. Maybe still in here. I looked up into the darkness above Willie's head. The ladder kept going, another 100 feet to the nacelle. My headlamp beam didn't reach that far, just rungs and shadows in the curve of the tower wall. I heard it then. 3 footsteps, boots on metal rungs, slow, careful, directly above us. Steady rhythm, same rhythm I'd been climbing. I stopped breathing. Willie heard it too. His whole body went still. The footsteps stopped. We didn't move. Silence. Just the low hum of the turbine. the distant sound of wind outside, the faint creak of the tower swaying. Then the footsteps again. 3 more. Same pace, same spacing, matching us. Someone was up there, waiting. I looked at Willie. His face was pale in the LED light, his jaw tight. He didn't look up. He looked at me. Then he raised his hand and made a signal. 3 fingers, tapped his chest where his badge was clipped. Rule 3. Don't go in alone. We weren't alone. He pointed down. I didn't argue. I backed down 1 rung, then another. Willie followed, staying above me, keeping himself between me and whatever was higher up. The footsteps started again, not retreating, not coming closer, just matching. 3 steps. Pause. 3 steps, following us down. Not fast, not slow, patient. My boot hit the second platform and I stepped off the ladder. Willie came down right after, his breathing fast and shallow. The footsteps stopped. We stood there. Neither of us looked up. Go, Willie said, quiet, flat. I went. I went down fast. Willie was still above me, moving slower, and I didn't wait for him to catch up. My boots hit every other rung, hands sliding on the uprights instead of gripping proper. Not safe. Didn't care. I just wanted ground. At the platform, 40 feet up, the one with the scuff mark, I stepped onto the grate and grabbed the rail to catch my breath. The LED work light bolted to the wall flickered. Just once. Red. Then white again. Whole thing lasted maybe a second. Could have been a bad bulb. Could have been voltage drop. Could have been nothing. But I'd spent the last 2 nights hearing Willie check badge colors every 15 minutes, and I'd read that laminated card 3 times in Grace's office, and Rule 2 was burned into my head clear enough. If badge turns red, stop work immediately and descend. The light wasn't my badge, but red was red. I didn't overthink it. I left the tool bag clipped to my harness, didn't bother checking what we'd brought up or whether we'd need it later. Just started climbing down again, faster than before. Willie was still 10 feet above me. I heard his boots scrape, heard him breathing hard through his nose. He wasn't following yet. Come on, I said. Didn't shout it, just said it. No answer. I glanced up. Willie had stopped halfway between platforms, one hand locked on the ladder, head tilted back like he was staring straight up into the nacelle. His headlamp beam cut a narrow line into the dark above him. Looking for proof, probably. Trying to see what was up there. I was about to tell him to forget it and move when he made a sound. Small. Sharp. Like he'd touched something hot. Then he came down hard. His boots slammed the rungs. No rhythm. No care. He dropped past me onto the platform, kept going, didn't even look at me. I followed. We didn't talk. Didn't stop. We just climbed down the rest of the way, another 40 feet. And my calves were burning by the time my boots hit concrete at the bottom. Willie shoved the access door open before I was even off the ladder. Night air hit my face dry and cool, and I sucked it in like I'd been holding my breath the whole way down. Willie stepped outside. I followed and grabbed the panel door, yanking it shut behind us. The latch was stiff, needed both hands, and I forced it closed like I could seal the whole experience away, like locking a gate would do anything. The wind had picked up. The turbine blades were still turning overhead, slow and steady, making that low, whooshing sound that was supposed to be normal. Willie walked straight to the truck without saying a word. I followed, pulling off my gloves and stuffing them in my jacket pocket. My hands were shaking a little. I figured it was just adrenaline. Happened sometimes after a fast descent. Willie climbed into the driver's seat and grabbed the radio handset off the dash. I got in the passenger side, pulled the door shut, and watched him key the mic. Grace, this is Willie. You copy? Static. He waited 5 seconds, tried again. Grace, Willie. We've got a situation at D07. You on? The radio crackled. Then Grace's voice came through, clear and steady. "Copy, Willie. Meet me at the substation, basement door." Willie's hand froze on the mic. I stared at the radio. Grace's voice had sounded normal, calm, no static, no distortion, just her. Willie keyed the mic again. "Grace, I thought you were off-site tonight." Pause. "I'm here. Basement door. Now." The radio clicked off. Willie set the handset back in its cradle slow, like it might break if he moved too fast. He didn't look at me. "She can't be on site," he said. I waited. "She told me this morning she had a family thing in El Centro, 2 hours away. She left at 4. I didn't say anything. Didn't know what to say. Willie pulled his phone out, checked the screen. No bars. He put it back. The SCADA tablet clip to the dash chimed. Willie grabbed it, swiped the screen. I leaned over enough to see. Turbine D07. Online status. Normal fault history. None. Willie scrolled down. No alerts. No error logs. Nothing that explained why we'd been sent up there in the first place. "Perfect readings," Willie said. His voice was flat. I looked out the windshield at D07. The blades were turning smooth. No wobble, no hesitation. The tablet chimed again. Willie looked down. 5 turbines on the east ridge. E14, E15, E16, E17, E18, dropped offline one after the other. Neat sequence. 2 seconds between each fault, like someone flipping switches in a row. Willie stared at the screen. "That's not random," I said. "No." He set the tablet down, put the truck in gear, and pulled onto the dirt road heading south toward the substation. I didn't mention the footsteps, didn't mention the handprints or the scuff mark or the way the light had flickered red. Probably should have. Probably that was the smart thing to do. But Willie was already gripping the wheel too tight, and Grace's voice had come through the radio when she wasn't supposed to be on site, and 5 turbines had just dropped offline in a deliberate sweep. I didn't know what any of it meant. So I grabbed the simplest explanation I could and held onto it. Turbine fault, bad readings, Grace came back early. That was it. We kept driving. The substation hallway light was on when we pulled up. That bugged me right away. Grace kept it off most of the time to keep insects out, only turned it on when someone needed to access the storage room or the break area. At 2 in the morning, nobody should have been inside. Willie put the truck in park but didn't kill the engine. I could see the glow through the narrow window beside the side door, that flat white LED brightness spilling onto the gravel. I opened my door. Willie didn't move. "You coming?" I said. He nodded but stayed in his seat, hands still on the wheel. His badge was clipped to his chest, green light steady. I checked mine. Also green. I stepped out. The wind had died down some, but the turbines were still turning. That low, whooshing rhythm I'd gotten used to over the last 3 nights. Willie finally climbed out and followed me to the door. I scanned my badge. The reader blinked green, and the lock clicked. Inside, the hallway stretched ahead with the same pale yellow walls and bright overhead panels. The air smelled like dust and ozone, same as before. But halfway down the hall, maybe 30 feet in, the basement door was open. Not wide, just an inch, maybe 2. A thin strip of red light leaked out from the gap, sharp and wrong against the white LEDs overhead. Willie stopped short. His boots scraped on the concrete. I looked at him. His face was blank, but his hand had drifted up toward his chest, fingers brushing the edge of his badge clip. "Willie," I said. He didn't answer. He was staring at the door. I stepped in front of him, blocking his line of sight. "Don't." His hand dropped, but his eyes didn't leave the door. I turned and looked at it again. The red light pulsed once, slow and deliberate, then held steady. From inside, a voice spoke. "Hey, little help here." It sounded exactly like Willie. Same relaxed tone, same slight rasp at the edges. Willie's breath hitched. The voice continued. "Door's stuck. Someone fell. Need a hand getting it open. I grabbed Willie's wrist before he could move. He tried to pull away, not hard, just automatic. That's not you, I said. I know, Willie said, but his hand was still reaching. The voice shifted. Lincoln. My name. Worse, because I'd only ever put that on paperwork with Grace. Willie called me by my last name half the time, and I'd never introduced myself to anyone else on site. Lincoln, we need you to open the door. It's part of the reset protocol. The voice wasn't Willie's anymore. It was flatter, more neutral, clinical. I pulled Willie back another step. His wrist was slick with sweat under my grip. I dug my phone out with my free hand and called Grace. It rang 4 times, long enough that I started thinking she wouldn't pick up. Then her voice came through, groggy and annoyed. What? We're at the substation, I said. Basement door's open, Is Willie with you? Yeah. Look at his badge. I turned. Willie's badge was still clipped to his chest, green light showing. But now that I looked closer, the plastic casing looked cloudy. Not cracked, not dirty. Cloudy from the inside, like condensation trapped under the surface. The photo still looked like Willie. Same narrow face, same tense mouth, but the edges were blurred. It's wrong, I said. Grace's voice sharpened. Don't let him touch the door. Don't let him go near it. Okay. I'm 20 minutes out. Keep him away from it. You hear me? Yeah. She hung up. The voice from the basement spoke again, and this time it sounded like Grace. Same clipped cadence, same authority. Rules are being updated. Basement access is required for system reset. Open the door. Willie leaned forward, not walking, just shifting his weight like he was trying to see past me. You hear that? He said. Hear what? People. There's people down there. I listened. All I heard was a low electrical hum, steady and mechanical. No voices. Willie tilted his head, listening to something I couldn't pick up. They're calling for help, he said. Multiple people. They're stuck. I tightened my grip on his wrist. There's nobody down there. I can hear them. The red light from the door pulsed again, brighter this time. Willie pulled harder, and I had to plant my feet to keep him from moving forward. Rule 5 flashed through my head. Don't remove or touch another worker's badge. I reached up with my free hand and yanked Willie's badge off his chest. The clip popped loose clean. Willie flinched. What are you? I stepped past him and clipped the badge to the basement door handle. The red light flared so bright I had to squint. Then it snapped off. The hum cut out. The voice died mid-word. The door stayed open an inch, but the gap was dark now. No light, no sound. Willie staggered back like someone had shoved him. His hand went to his chest where the badge had been, fingers fumbling at empty fabric. Come on, I said. I grabbed his shoulder and dragged him back toward the entrance. He didn't fight me, but he wasn't helping either. His legs moved on autopilot. We made it to the main hallway door and I shoved it open. Willie stumbled through. I followed and pulled the door shut behind us, then looked around. There was a rolling tool chest against the wall about 10 feet down, red metal with 4 drawers and heavy casters. I pushed it in front of the door and locked the wheels. Willie sat down on the floor, back against the concrete wall, staring at nothing. I pulled out my phone. Still no signal. I went back outside. 2 bars appeared. I called Grace again. She picked up on the first ring. What happened? I took his badge off, clipped it to the door. Light went out. Silence. Then, you're both outside the hallway? Yeah, door's blocked. Good. Stay there. I'm 15 minutes out. Okay. She hung up again. I sat down next to Willie. He was breathing too fast, shallow and uneven. You good? I said. He shook his head. I heard them. I swear I heard them. I know. You didn't? No. He pressed his palms against his eyes. What the hell was that? I didn't have an answer. We waited. Grace showed up at 4:40. Two other trucks pulled in right behind her, Cole Marshall and Nicole McCarthy, both wearing clean PPE with badges clipped high on their chests. I recognized them from the day crew, though I'd never worked with them directly. Grace climbed out of her truck. Her hair was damp and pulled back in a messy bun, and there was dust on her jeans. She looked like she'd been woken up in a hurry and drove fast. She walked straight to the hallway door without saying anything to me or Willie. Cole and Nicole followed her inside. I heard the tool chest scrape across the floor. Grace came back out 2 minutes later. She looked at Willie, still sitting against the wall. "Inside," she said. "Break room. Sit still." Willie stood and walked past her without a word. Grace turned to me. "Show me what you did." I led her back into the hallway. The tool chest was off to the side now. The basement door was still cracked open, dark inside. Willie's badge was still clipped to the handle, but the LED was off. Dead. Grace crouched next to it and studied the badge without touching it. Cole and Nicole stood a few feet back, watching. "You clipped his badge to the handle," Grace said. "Yeah." "Why?" "Figured if it wanted in, I'd give it something else to chew on." Grace stood. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once. That was smart. She pulled a small multi-tool from her belt, used the pliers to unclip Willie's badge from the handle, and dropped it into a plastic bag Cole was holding. The door stayed dark. "What was it?" I asked. "Don't know exactly," Grace said, "but it treats badges like permissions. You gave it Willie's access. Traded him for the door." I understood immediately. Whatever was down there had been trying to get Willie to open the door himself. When I clipped his badge to the handle instead, it took that. Took his permissions, his access, whatever the badge represented. Took him off the board. Grace walked back to the break room. I followed. Willie was sitting at the folding table, hands flat on the surface. His chest looked wrong without the badge. Grace unlocked a cabinet I hadn't noticed before, pulled out a laminator and a blank card, and started printing. The machine hummed and spat out a new badge in under a minute. She clipped it to Willie's chest herself. "Go home," she said. "Shower, sleep. Don't come back tonight." Willie nodded and stood. He left without looking at me. Grace waited until we heard his truck start, then turned to me. "You two. Clock out. Pack your stuff. Leave." "I'm fired?" "No, but you're done here. Substation knows you now. Knows how you think. You stay, it'll learn your habits. Then it'll find a way in." I thought about arguing. Didn't. "Okay," I said. I drove back to the site office and dropped the truck keys on Grace's desk. She was standing by the coffee maker, arms crossed. I unclipped my badge. The green light was still on, steady and normal. I walked over to the metal trash can next to her desk and dropped it in. It hit the bottom with a sharp clatter, and I let go like the thing carried heat. Grace didn't say anything. I left. I reached El Centro by 7:30, stopped for gas and coffee, and kept driving east. Didn't rest. Didn't think about it. I never took another industrial contract after that. Not because I couldn't handle the work. I could. But I'd learned something at Ocotillo that I couldn't unlearn. A badge could become a promise you didn't remember making. And promises had costs that outlasted any job.